Welcome to the Buy Nothing Rebellion. Today, we're talking measuring and marking. Let me start with the BLUF. That's the bottom line up front. And the BLUF is this. I have no idea what you're building. I have no idea what kind of wood you're using, what kind of tools you have, or how much or how little experience you have. And I want to tell you something else right up front. Unless you're an expert woodworker, you do not need a $75 precision marking ruler, a $270 square, a $75 marking knife, or any of that other stuff that woodworking channels are constantly pushing at you. I've noticed at least 4 companies dedicated to precision accessories for the woodworking community, and they're all using YouTubers to aggressively push products that almost none of us need. In today's environment, I find that's not only tone deaf, it also seems to embody the state of American consumption. You need a tape measure, a pencil, a square that's actually square, more on that in a minute, and maybe a marking knife. That's it. Now, some observant viewer is likely to notice some level of precision tool in my shop and call me out for being dishonest. You won't have to look very hard because I've made a lot of bad purchasing decisions. Where do you think these video ideas come from? I keep this one right here in my pocket to remind me of those decisions. I've rarely used it, but I felt like I needed it at some point in the past. Stick with me till the end of the video, and I'll drop a personal challenge that will add precision to your own level of measuring and marking. I'll also show you where you can pick up a comprehensive measuring and marking checklist that you can download and keep handy for reference. Here's why this topic matters more than any tool in your shop. Here's the thing about measuring and marking. It's step number 1. And if you get it wrong at step 1, no amount of skill at the table saw or the workbench is going to save you. Your cut is only as good as your mark, and your mark is only as good as your measurement. Garbage in, expensive wood thrown out. I've watched beginners spend real money upgrading their table saws, and I get it. I've been there. When the actual problem is 6 inches from their pencil. So let's fix the problem at the source, your eyes and your hands. Number 1, the tape measure used correctly. Most people have been using one their whole life and have actually never learned to use it. And I mean that with respect, because I didn't either until somebody taught me. That little metal hook on the end, for example, it moves on purpose. It slides back and forth by exactly its own thickness. Hook it over the end of a board and it slides out. Push it against something for an inside measurement, it slides in. Either way, you're always measuring from 0. That's not a defect, that's the design. Most beginners don't know that. If you're a beginner, now you know. When you mark, use a V or an upside down V, not a straight line. A line has width and an angle. A V has a point. Your measurement goes to the tip of the V. That's a specific location, not a range. I like to make my first mark vertically, then make my second mark at an angle. And when you're making repeat cuts, start from the 1-inch mark and subtract. That's called a burn measurement. You take the variable of that moving hook completely out of the equation. I use that trick constantly in my shop, especially if the tip of my tape measure is bent or not perfect. Number 2, the pencil and how to pick the right one. Use a sharp pencil or a fine point mechanical pencil. A fat carpenter's pencil is for rough framing, not furniture, not joinery. A sharp number 2 pencil or a mechanical pencil gives you a line you can actually see and trust. Depending on the woodworking you're doing, I'd recommend a 0.5 millimeter mechanical pencil for most woodworking, and a flat-backed marking knife if you're going to do fine woodworking. One caution between those two. Marking with a pencil is a soft commitment. You can move that pencil line. Marking with the knife, that's a hard commitment. Once the wood fibers are cut, it's there for good. And before you go looking at $80 Japanese blades, stop. Any sharp craft knife will do. Just use them carefully and with minimal blade extension if you're using a utility knife for marking. What a marking knife can do that a pencil can't is sever the wood fibers instead of crushing them. That gives you a crisp, burnished shoulder line that your chisel or your saw can register directly against. The fit's tight and you can feel it right away with your saw. I don't buy expensive marking knives. I never have. I don't need them. One thing to note, if you follow woodworkers like Rob Kosman and you like to employ his method of marking, be sure to match your marking knife with the width of the saw that you're using, and be sure to match the width of the tooth offset, not the thickness of the saw blade. Number 3, the square that's actually square. That is actually one place that I'll ask you to spend a little money. Not a lot, but a little. A cheap square that isn't square is worse than no square at all, because it gives you false confidence. The more precise you try to be with an inaccurate square, the more impact your projects will see. Get one good combination square. That's the whole list. A combination square can be one of the most versatile layout tools in your shop, but only if it's actually square. Let's break out here for a practical shopping tip. Use the flip test at the store when selecting one to make sure that it's accurate. Bring a 0.5mm mechanical pencil with you to the store. Pick a square that has the features you like, then lay it on the edge of the shelf framing of the big box store, or Woodcraft or Rockler. Strike a line with your pencil. Flip the square 180 degrees, align the pencil with your mark, and mark again. If you see a V at all, the square is not square. Put it back. Grab another one. Try again. Here's why. These mid-tier big box squares are designed to be square, but manufacturing specs are loose enough to meet a price point. Many of the squares will be spot on, but there are others that are more like defects. Put the defects back and keep testing in the store until you find one that's accurate. Okay, back to the video topic. An accurate square marks consistent parallel lines from an edge. It checks for square. It doubles as a depth gauge. You can run your pencil or your knife right along the blade of the square. One tool, many jobs, and it will likely outlast everything else on your bench. Just make sure you don't drop it on concrete. Ask me why I say that. Number 4, transfer when you can, don't measure. Whenever you can, don't use a number, use a transfer instead. If you're cutting a shelf to fit an opening, don't measure the opening, write down that number, and then try to reproduce it on your blank piece of wood. Hold the blank itself up to the opening and mark it directly. I'll mark it referentially like this, then cut outside the line, recutting and sneaking up until I get the fit that I'm looking for. Every time you convert a physical reality into a number and then try to reproduce that number somewhere else, you introduce an opportunity for error. 2 errors on a single joint and suddenly nothing fits. This is called referential measurement, and experienced cabinet makers call it direct marking. Story sticks are the same idea but scaled up. You can use a scrap piece of wood as a story stick and use that stick to transfer measurements. I use it whenever I can. It might feel slower, but it isn't, because you stop making parts that don't fit. Measure with numbers when you have to. Transfer directly whenever you can. That's it. Tape measure, used right. A sharp, appropriately sized pencil, a marking knife for joinery, one good combination square, and the habit of transferring directly instead of measuring whenever you have the option. You don't need a laser square. You don't need a precision layout kit. You don't need 99% of the crap the industry is always trying to set you back a Ben Franklin for. The skills I just described have been building furniture for hundreds of years. More tools don't make you a better woodworker, and more expensive tools certainly don't make you a better woodworker. Knowing how to use the basic ones does. Okay, here's the challenge that will enhance your precision when measuring and marking. Grab a scrap piece of wood that's a couple inches wide and a foot or so long. Do your best to get that scrap cut in such a way that you have one square long edge and one perpendicular cross cut. Starting from the fresh cut edge, measure and mark 1 inch from the edge. Go slow, take your time, be precise. Check to ensure that your pencil is vertical to the board and not angled. Ensure that you're looking straight down onto the wood. Make your first V. Now use your square along the straight edge to strike a line across the board. Go about halfway down the board. Now burn an inch with your tape, and starting from that freshly struck line, measure and mark 1 inch with a V, followed by striking a line from the midpoint to the straight edge. Repeat this process until you reach the end of your board. Now repeat this drill, measuring, marking, and striking at the ½ inch mark, making your lines just a bit shorter than the midpoint lines. Then finally, repeat this drill, measuring, marking, and striking at the ½ inch mark, making your lines a bit shorter than the ½ inch marks. Now grab a good tape measure and check your accuracy. You just made a wooden ruler. If you really want to develop the necessary hand-to-eye coordination needed for fine woodworking and joinery, make a few of these rulers every so often. Use this as a warm-up drill before you dive into serious joinery tasks. Okay, now the cool part. In the video description, you'll find a link to this 3-page measuring and marking checklist that I made. I've packed it with useful tables, conversions, and other important things to keep in mind when measuring and marking. If you found value in this content, please drop a comment below and let me know. Also, how many days has it been in your shop since the last bad measurement bit you? If you're new around here, please consider subscribing. There's a lot more honest woodworking where this came from. Till next time, friend. Peace, love, and sawdust. I'm out.